Hello, welcome to another episode of Ask a Maker Educator. I'm Danny from MakerEd, and I am super excited to be here with Marcos Navas from Union City, New Jersey, who is, what doesn't he do? Was just telling me about some of the new work that he's getting into, and he'll tell you about it himself. But he is a technology integration specialist, 3D printing expert, STEM camp facilitator, overall awesome dude who's going to tell us a little bit about himself. If you want to get involved in the conversation, you can go ahead and jump into the chat on YouTube or share your questions on social media and tag MakerEd. Marcos, introduce yourself. Tell us a little about yourself and the work you do.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Very honored and humbled to be here with you guys. My name is Marcos Navas. I am from the Union City School District in New Jersey. I'm the technology facilitator, one of four there in the Great Board of Ed of Union City. Doing a lot, getting involved in a lot of things. I was so excited to be on makered.org because, to be honest with you, this is where it all started for me as a maker. As an educator, a couple of years back, just got my head back into education and I wanted to see some different things I could do. And I came across makered.org and saw the playbooks and saw this whole makerspace, maker movement, got involved with some local makers, some great authors and makers. And it took off from there, and I got into 3D printing. It so happened I moved into next door to another 3D printing guru who makes 3D printed Buddhas, and he was manufacturing them. He showed me this whole world of 3D printing, and both worlds came together, and just put my passion into that. And that's really what it comes down to, is I adopted that maker mindset and used it to my advantage and just started getting involved and let the curiosity go and went into 3D printing, and from there the maker movement, maker spaces, to Little Bits, to Raspberry Pis, and went to Pi Academy, went to Apple Camp, and got involved in education, pedagogy wise and maker wise, and fell in love. And it's just a passion. It really is just a passion.
That's awesome. And it sounds like you've done a lot of work to kind of educate yourself and become a student in a lot of ways yourself, and jump into things like Raspberry Pi Academy. What has that been like for you?
I mean, the learning never stops. Even as educators, I think that's one thing we got to remember is, if you're stuck in your routine and you're doing the same thing year in and year out, you really need to take a step back and reflect a little bit, and just change it up. And so it really comes down to initiative and having that initiative drive of, why I don't want to do the same old thing. Let's see what else is out there. Let's and then when you start throwing kids into the mix and saying, wow, you know what, I can make a difference by introducing someone to 3D printing at an early age. You don't know where that can go to down the line with their futures. And but it all started again just with initiative and curiosity of what is out there, and heard about this little Raspberry Pi and this $30 computer. And again, just an educator, not too familiar with the coding world, I applied. And a lot of it's just throwing your hat into things like that. And, you never know where those roads can take you. So went to Pi Academy, loved it, got into the whole coding side of things, and Minecraft hacking and projects, maker projects. Really, really cool stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's great. And one of the things I love doing most about these Q&A sessions with maker educators is that passion. And it's people transitioning from engineering to making, or transitioning from just an excited person to making, or being an archaeologist to making, and all of them have that same incredible passion and sense of, continuing to learn yourself and like you said, throwing your hat into new things. So it just makes me very excited to hear that over and over and over again, and to have people who are inspiring others to do that is great. So, one of the big things I'm excited to talk about today is a project I know you're super deeply involved in right now, and that's these hands-on coding. So just in general, tell us a little about how you see hands-on coding, what that looks like in action, and how it's different or related to what I might be picturing when I hear coding.
Right. So, In today's world, everyone's going, taking these analog ideas and trying to turn them digital, and getting involved with the maker world and getting involved with coding. I saw something different. I saw, these digital commands and these digital block coding, and this new way of coding with Scratch on the scene, and Tickle app, and all these new little robots, inexpensive robots that just brings coding to life. So doing my research into that, I said, wow, I mean, at the end of it all, it's all about giving a command. It's all about being able to be detailed in that command.
Sure.
And how cool would it be if we introduce this at an early age? And obviously, being exposed to code.org and seeing their free resources and all the stuff they have going on. One day, it just hit me one day, and I said, bringing in with the 3D printing and seeing what my neighbor was doing,
Yeah.
his own manufacturing at home, I said, you know what? I mean, I would love to find something and do that as well. And it hit me one day with the, you know, coding blocks, just looking at Scratch. I said, you know what? Let me play around and tinker around.
Yeah.
Jumped on Tinkercad, used Morphi app, which is an iPad version of 3D CAD editing.
Hmm.
Awesome app. Check it out, Morphi app. And came up with the first set, a little prototype, printed one out, and I said, wow, I think I got something here. And these hands-on coding, please check out the website, handsoncoding.org. We were on an Indiegogo last year, and quite honestly, we did not make our mark. And it was a great learning tool. And talk about putting the maker mindset into
Yeah, definitely.
action. A lot of people fail a campaign like that. They would throw a towel in. We didn't. We said, you know
Yeah.
what, we'll figure this out. There's definitely, we saw the interest. We saw, and we've taken this to a lot of great organizations, and they loved it. And
Hmm.
it was all about getting it done and manufactured. So,
Yeah.
we have we are not out of the game. We are
Yeah.
definitely moving forward. We
Okay.
are solidifying our manufacturing side of things, but hands-on coding will be out this year.
That's
And
awesome.
these are coding blocks with commands on them to pretty much teach coding with no devices necessary. So
Hmm.
you don't need an iPad, you don't need a computer. So it takes this digital idea and turns them to physical analog world.
Yeah.
So it's adaptable with any coding curriculum, code.org, anything out there. It puts coding into a kinesthetic world where kids are acting out coding now. You can do dual coding, and with the blocks, put together a little algorithm, and someone can act that out.
Yeah.
As an educator, you can go into a classroom, not have to take out an iPad, draw a square on the board the old-fashioned way, or projector, whatever you like,
Yeah.
and tell the kids, use the blocks to code that. What would that look like? And it's just
Mhm.
the introduction of coding at an early age. I mean, stats have shown early age, exposing kids to STEM and STEAM at an early age. Um, it's just going to enhance things, make things better. And it's something socially we're missing, is those maker and STEM mindsets. And obviously the careers are in bad demand. They're looking for STEM careers, and it's just where it's going. This is where education needs to go.
Yeah. How do you see kids making the leap from that touchable? So maybe do you see them starting with the
Yeah.
touchable hands-on world and moving forward onto the computer? And what does
I
that shift look like?
Right. I mean, and that is a great start. Would be, hands-on coding is a great way to introduce coding. Period. Because at the end of
Mhm.
the day, it's basic coding commands that the first set will have. So again, it's very adaptable with the code.org uh, uh, curriculum, where a lot of the kinesthetic stuff, the um, no-fi lessons in the code.org, or the where you don't need to be on connected to a computer,
Right.
they're perfect fit right there. They work right there. So, as well as integrating it with more complex programming as you go down the line, one of the other, we've been looking at other languages too. So we're already thinking of new sets and other sets we can go into.
Yeah.
But we can definitely get a little complicated. We do have, an if then block. There's 12 blocks in total. We have, move forward, move back, basic movement blocks. We have a
Sure.
say blank box, so you can fill in what you want it to say. So you can even bring in a little language arts into this, and code
Sure.
out, sentences and things like that if you like. So we have degree movements as well. So that's a whole slew of math stuff you can do there, and so it's very adaptable. It's cross curricular. It's hitting every subject. It's turning coding to a physical kinesthetic subject.
Definitely, and it seems like it does a really awesome job of recognizing that coding is more than just making computers do things. It's about a process, and it's about a way of thinking about instructions and detailed thinking like that. So it's cool
Yes.
you mentioned those math and language arts integrations, which I really appreciate. I wonder, and actually, in fact, someone from our audience also is wondering, for students who might be already familiar with code.org or familiar with Scratch, how can they go beyond the computer is their question, and how might hands-on coding play a role in that?
Well, after again, code.org is being used by millions of people across the country, and I get this question a lot. Well, what do we do after that?
Yeah,
They have some awesome resources that do get more advanced as you go on. Even a little bit of app making on the site, which is cool. So some of the next steps, once the kids have all that code.org, and you're seeing that they're just progressing and they are hungry for the next big thing. You always have Scratch out there.
yep,
But what I would like to move into after that would obviously be more complex if then and statements like that,
yeah,
more advanced algorithms. But actual app making, that's an introduction you can start talking about. What would your ideal app look like? Investigate and figure out how to do it. There's a couple of online tools that help you put apps together, and there's a great introduction to putting some of those more advanced kids onto that. And more importantly, I think it's time to bring coding to life. And what I
mhm,
mean by that is bringing in some of these robots that are inexpensive in the classroom. You have Spheros out there, you have Ozobots, you have Parrot drones, you
mhm,
have Dash and Dot Wonder Workshop does an amazing job. I love the Dash and Dots because they have a slew of a large array of different apps that are adaptable for all grade levels, and it brings in all the different cross curricular ideas. But then you can take it to another level where now they have to create using these robots and coding and
sure,
bringing that code to life, because it's one thing putting these blocks together, but
mhm,
when you're able to send it to a little robot and actually see the movement and see if it was correct,
yeah,
take things to a whole other world.
totally,
So I know in Union City STEM camps, one of the things we put together were we had Dash and Dots there. The students had to create a coding obstacle course. So they were broken up into two groups, and the one group was creating an obstacle course for the opposite group, and it was literally put the dash and try to figure out the code to get through this whole obstacle course, and person who figured it out and dash got through won. So we brought that in. We also had the battle of the rock bands with Dash and Dot, where kids
nice,
had a code using xylophone and actually bringing in makey makeys, and they had to compose a song,
mhm,
program Dash and Dot to play a part in it. They're able to dress them up as punk rockers and things like that. So integrating all these cool stuff, and the
yeah.
kids were learning. And big word in education right now is rigor, and that's rigor in action. You're bringing in problem solving. You're bringing in so many different levels of learning into a project like that.
And what do you think changes for the students? I mean, when they get to see that robot dancing or playing a xylophone, what do you think changes for them and the way they connect with computing tasks and things like
Yeah.
that?
I think what they see is their ideas come to life, and I think that is a very powerful thing.
Yeah.
Um, Even myself as an adult, this, even if you look at code.org, hands-on coding, I had an idea,
Hmm.
made it a physical item, and the pride that goes into something like that is unbelievable, because
Yeah.
again, you took an idea, you have such ownership in that, and pride in something like that. And I think the kids get that, and they want more of that. They love the feeling, and they want to see more of that. And they're seeing that, there's also a big uncelebrated group of kids in schools.
Hmm.
There's a lot of great activities for those athletes. There's a lot of
Yes.
great stuff, for those popular kids and things
Yeah.
like that. And, it's that group of kids that are the future of innovation for this country. There's that group of kids that are going to, go and do some serious road paving for this country, and they're not celebrated that much in schools.
Hmm.
And you know what, this gives them that celebration. Bringing maker fairs into schools and to STEM camps, and forget about it. You have a very happy bright kid that will now take things to a whole other level.
Definitely. Yeah, and I think that's true for making across the board, is that it gives voices to people who maybe didn't have an opportunity to have their voice heard in a meaningful way before. So I think that's really great.
Yeah.
I wonder. So we're talking a lot about tech tools, and I think that I mean, obviously, as we hear talking to you, there's so much good to be had from tools like this, these tech tools, these awesome robots and things like that. I think that sometimes folks might get a little overwhelmed, or maybe don't know where to start with these new fun technologies, things like that. How do you start with something like that, and how do you, as you go forward, make sure that it stays meaningful? I think that's another big challenge, is not just having a cool toy because it's cool.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's something, when we speak about STEM and bringing making into the classroom.
Mhm.
Um, I'm not too happy with the way that it's a different subject. They see it as something you do after school. They see it as something you do during lunchtime,
Yeah.
or they see it as maybe we'll fit into a schedule and create a STEM block where
Yeah.
they're doing STEM activities. That's great and dandy, but there's no why behind that.
Mhm.
And a great friend of mine just put me onto this idea of why. You always got to ask why. There's got
Sure.
to be meaning behind everything you do. It cannot just be, hey, let's build a bridge and do a STEM challenge. All right, great.
Yeah.
It all starts with standards. In the classroom with educators, our classrooms are driven by a curriculum. There are standards that are tied into that curriculum. The beautiful part of these standards, and there's the next generation science standards, are doing a great job bringing making into the classroom, bringing STEM into the classroom. And I think it's a great first step. I do see us needing to get a little bit more progressive in the country with STEM and these maker integrations, but
Yeah.
it all starts with the standard, figuring out what the end goal you want, what idea is it that these kids need to understand based on the standard and your curriculum. And the integration starts there. It all starts with the standard. So then I always look at, well, what resources do I have that I can maybe use to address the standard?
Sure.
Do I have Makey Makeys? Do I have Ozobots? Do I have, what websites do I have available that I know are out there? And that's all, again, as an educator, having the initiative to go out there, dive into things, look at what's out there, and
Mhm.
really just creating your own array of tools. There's only so much a school district's going to give you as an educator nowadays. With budgets and with way cuts are happening, there's only so much schools can buy. So a lot of resources, a lot of great digital resources out there that are free. And as an
Mhm.
educator, it's all about integrating that into what your final goal and standard tells you to do.
Definitely. I think that's super important. I wonder, on top of that, how do you then take it to the level of you're hitting on your standards, but uh, are your students going to be excited about that? So how do you take the student need or student interest portion into account as well?
Well, we know what I'm finding is anytime you bring in any type of robot, any type of game, moving, and at one point we in education was saying, let's use PowerPoint because it's moving across the screen. At least it entertains them.
Right.
Obviously we've seen that overdone and killed. But anything that grabs their attention, anything you can grab, where you can touch their internal motivation, you know, the society allows us to see what's cool. Social media
Yeah.
lets us see what's trending. Kids and students see that too. They're part of that trend nowadays. So being, up to date with that side of things, and then bringing that into your school and to your class and to your lessons,
Yeah.
I mean, is a huge, huge motivational factor. If you have your students hooked that way, where they want to come to class, they want to come to STEM camp, they're telling the parents, no, leave me here a little longer, I want to stay.
Yeah.
You've won, you've accomplished, you there, you got them hooked. It's now a matter of integrating those
Yeah.
things you need to do as a curriculum and a teacher, and keep bringing in those interests.
Definitely. Very, very nice. I want to shift gears a little bit just to make sure we hit on all the topics we wanted to hit on. You mentioned this a couple times. I'd love if you could talk a little bit about your STEM camps, because it's a program that I know you've talked a little bit about with us at Maker Ed and at Maker Fair before. Tell us about what that's like and how you brought STEM out of the classroom and continue the learning through the summer.
Um, First and foremost, I've been privileged to been able to, given the opportunity of running and organizing these STEM camps. The Union City Board of Education, I can't say enough great things about them. Very progressive, urban school district in New Jersey, right across the river from New York City, doing amazing things there. New York Times bestsellers have been written about the district. Huge Latino population. So being of the area, I grew up in Hudson County as well, nearby city. I understand and can connect with the kids of the community and the kids that come through our school system. So, as I'm getting involved with all this and 3D printing is becoming a bigger thing, and I'm, my first thing was, how do I get this into the schools? How can I get, integrate this? And I went to my superintendent. I said, look, and I showed her a 3D printed object. She was blown away. Was, what is this? And we got into that whole thing, and it just opened up doors. And we had our first year at Union City, we had a group come in and help us organize the STEM camps, and I was part of that. And then the second year, she allowed me to run them, and not only allow me to put this together, but some of my crazy ideas was like, go ahead, try it, let's go, let's do it. It's a summer camp, let's integrate that fun and integrate that science and integrate all these components. So, being an Apple district, what we did was we created, iBooks. We made it a green camp, no paper at all, unless it was used for making, and it was all kids. It was a 2-to-1 camp. Every student had an iPad and a MacBook Air, so we saw a big difference there as far as what it can bring to a classroom, just that aspect. And then just started bringing in making. Design thinking was a big part of the camp overall, where we allowed the kids to design real world, design around real world issues and bring in problem-based learning. And we saw amazing things, things that I think a lot of the teachers and facilitators that run the camp weren't expecting. Some of these ideas our students are walking around with are amazing. And these camps were, what I saw was bringing this out, was bringing creativity out. They wanted more. They, as soon as that first year was done, those campers were tugging at my shirt. Well, what are we going to do next year? So then it was like, oh man, we got to develop something new. So we developed a second course, and we brought in Raspberry Pis, we brought in Minecraft hacking, we brought in gamification. So what we did was, I was blown away that some of our kids never played Pac-Man. They had no idea what Centipede was. Wow. So we gave them a full period of playing some retro games. Go ahead, play around. We showed them how that was done through an emulator on a Raspberry Pi, and that raised some eyebrows. But they got to play some of those games, and on day 2, they came in and we brought in video game making, and we allowed them to design and create their own video games. And that got huge raves from the students. They loved it. Then we took it a step further, and we brought in Raspberry Pis and looked at Minecraft hacking. Instead of building 100 blocks, the old-fashioned way, let's write a line of code and do it that way. So pretty amazing stuff, STEM Camp. And we're looking to, again, take it to a new level and keep going and keep exposing our inner city kids to this world of STEM and making.
Hi there. I think we will having some internet problems here in Oakland, so we're going to go ahead and stop the broadcast. But thanks so much for following. We'll make sure that we send out all the links for Marcos, and we appreciate so much, Marcos, your time and energy. Join us next week as we're going to be live from South by Southwest EDU down in Austin. And so join us then Wednesday early morning. We'll make sure to tweet things out. Thanks so much for joining us. And the internet has failed. So epic technology fail as we're talking about technology, of course. But thanks, everybody. See you next week.